All is one reflections, everyone. I am Priestess Oleia Ifa Shabi. I am a goddaughter of the Reverend Priestess Oshun Funke Ianifa, and I am a member of the Orisha Hoodoo Institute. I am a Yoni Steam practitioner. I am the Pussy Priestess, and I am everything you need and more. Today, we are discussing sirens, mermaids, and the like. Okay. So we are going to explore some powerful water spirits and whose stories are as vast and complex as the waters they inhabit. We will also be discussing the varying types of sirens that there are, because there are actually different types of sirens. So they're not all water sirens, and they all don't look the same, and they all have different characteristics. So let's get into it, okay? So, what are some of the things you've heard about mermaids, sirens, or water spirits? Let me know. Drop it in the chat and let me know like what it is, or come off of mute if you would like. And talk to me. What have you heard about mermaids? What have you heard about sirens? Anybody?
To my knowledge, mermaids and sirens carry a very enticing, seductive nature. Their energy is very magnetic, and there's an air of mystery and caution when proceeding. I know it can be associated with like myths, like, men at sea and things of that nature, or just like the unsuspecting um, person or male. I don't really care to get into gender because I will entice a female in a heartbeat. But yeah,
Right.
science definitely have that ability, to my knowledge.
Beautiful. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Definitely. So that is definitely all that I've heard as well, and seen like in movies, it gets depicted a lot. Um, but not so much the dangerous side. For the most part, when we see mermaids in TV or in stories, they're saving someone, or they're transforming into a human, and all these different things, right? Because they're part fish, part human. So there's so many things. One thing that I know I heard in my younger years about sirens is they pull men to their death, like the sailors that Agiola Oshuntara was talking about. The siren song, right? They say the siren song will lure them in, and they're so captivated by the siren song that they'll go overboard and be pulled to their death. It's intense. So there are some Greek mythology and stories. We'll kind of talk about that today, because I mean, sirens are everywhere. I remember we were in Morocco, and we went to like this excavation site where they were mining, fossils from the earth in Morocco, and in the Sahara Desert, basically. And it was sea creatures. And we all, all of us were just like, I wonder if they ever found any mermaids. So we asked, have you ever found any mermaids? And our tour guide, he just kind of looked at us, and he didn't respond, because he wasn't going to lie to us, but he probably is sworn to secrecy. if there has ever been any mermaid remains found, because I'm telling you, they had some big, huge fossils. Princess Omoshule can tell you there were some big, huge fossils that they found, and like and thousands of them, so big they were making like tables because it ends up being in granite and marble and all these different types of natural stones. Huge, giant pieces, like huge fossils, sand dollars, crabs, fish, squid, everything. So we were just like, I'm sure, I wonder if they found any mermaids. That was where my mind went initially. It just was really amazing. So there are so many different types of mermaids, right? Can anybody tell me the different types of mermaids that there are, or sirens? I'm gonna, for all purposes of this lecture today, I will be using siren the most. I identify as a siren, and we'll get into that later. So I will be using siren during this lecture today, okay? So we've already talked about what we know about sirens or mermaids, right? And what we've heard. Um, but there are different categories of sirens. So can anyone tell me the different categories of sirens that there are as it relates to the elements? Let me see the chat.
Okay, I'm not sure in regards to the elements, but you know how there's many roads and sides of things. I was thinking more of like the left-handed could be those that are like in the more in the depth of the ocean or are more prone to capturing, sailors, things of that sort. And then maybe the right-handed are more, I don't want to say right-handed, but more of a seductress, more of giving blessings of prosperity, abundance, things of that sort.
Mhm.
But those are like the only two like aspects that I can think of.
Those are really good. Yeah, I think that's actually a perfect kind of breakdown for the left and the right, actually. Thank you for that. Can anyone else take a guess at the different types of sirens categorized by the elements? Okay. Anyone else want to go take a guess?
I didn't know there were types either, so I'm all
Okay.
ears.
Yeah. So there are water sirens, which mermaids, right? I'm sorry, y'all. This cold weather got my nose dripping, and I have a new puppy. So I've been walking my puppy outside in the cold. So I got a drippy nose. I'm not sick. I got a cold weather nose. Okay. So there are water sirens, right? Like mermaids. We know we got our first Black Ariel with Disney. Okay. Thanks, Haley. Holly. Okay, so water sirens, we know about those, but there are also air sirens and land sirens. Okay, so when we think about sirens, we most commonly are thinking about mermaids in the water. That's the most prevalent siren, that we know about, that have we've been talked like introduced to. But if you think back to mythology in the Greek era, the siren was a bird with a woman's head. That is an air siren. That siren flies in the sky and in the air, and they are most like associated with air and transformation and things like that, because in that story, in that Greek mythology, their siren was like so strong. The sailor's captain was so captivated by it that all the sailors are trying to get away so that they wouldn't be captivated, and he had the sailors tie him to the post. so that he could indulge in the siren. Like he didn't give a fuck. It was crazy. So there are definitely different types of sirens: water, air, and land. Um What kind of sirens are the Kardashians? Listen, Priestess Oyapetsu, they are land sirens. Okay, so I categorize land sirens as this is my categorization of what a land siren is. A land siren would also be considered the bird body with the lady head because they're known to living in like mountainous areas. So that land and air siren, technically speaking, is going to be the same category when you're thinking of like the actual figure of what that siren is, right? I'm categorizing land sirens as us, as humans, as us in the flesh, living in the land, but tuned in, tapped in, like all the way in to the elements and varying elements, and also using our God-given gifts and talents to move about the world, right? So land sirens for me are us. So the Kardashians are land sirens. Because a land siren is able to utilize all the elements. When you think about a water siren, a mermaid, just let's just use the Little Mermaid. The Little Mermaid falls in love with the sailor. She wants to go to land. The octopus is evil and mad because she feels like she should be in charge. So how's she gonna get all the power? She's gonna entice Ariel to do whatever. So in order for Ariel to get to land, she exchanges her voice, which her siren in this instance is her voice, her song. Her singing is everything. So her singing potentially lures sailors to their death. But she wants to go on land to be with Eric. So she gives up her voice and she transforms the lady, turns her into a human with legs. So in my research and in all of the stories and mythologies that are out there about sirens and mermaids, they are transformative. Okay. So she's now on land. She's now on land. So I'm just saying this to say that I feel like the transformative nature of sirens is giving, right? So you could be a water siren and transform into a land siren, or be an air siren and transform into a land, and vice versa. That's just what I'm seeing from my research, and that's what makes the most sense to me. And I am a siren on land. I love the water. I am a firebug. I love the fire. But I also love to be in nature. I won't call myself an air siren because I can't fucking fly unless it's on a plane. And even then, like, it's temporary. So I am a siren on land, and let's get into it. So let's start with water spirits because we all know about Yemoja, we know about Yeye Oshun, and some of us who participated in Priestess Ifa Pomelé's book club know about Mami Wata. And so we know that these water spirits are real. A lot of us in the coven, all of us are in the coven and priestesses on here. So we all know that there are several layers to the water, and we know there's several layers and energies surrounding water. right? So we can't limit them just to Yemoja and Oshun. We know there's more than that, right? And we all study various things in different ways, and there are different laws that are associated with water and all of the like. Okay. So one thing that I also have found is that angels are also closely associated with air, sirens, you know. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. Okay. So Mami Wata, she revered across West Africa, Central and Southern Africa. Mami Wata is a powerful water spirit and often depicted as a beautiful mermaid or water serpent. She embodies both nurturing and danger, symbolizing the dual nature of water. Followers believe she brings wealth, health, protection, and must be approached with respect. And there's a reason for the being approached with the respect, and it has to do with Mami Wata being like the original source, okay? And you can learn more about Mami Wata in the book club. And so I encourage you to reach out to Priestess Ifa Pamile and get that book. My book is loaned out right now, so I can't show you um what the book looks like, but it's a great book, and there is a whole book club, and we did a whole series, and we met and we talked about all the different chapters and all the varying things in the book. But this book is really amazing and will give you a really deeper sense into um some African traditional religion and the association of water and the water spirits. And we know about Yemoja. She is, you know, from our Yoruba tradition, and she's the mother of the Orisha and the goddess of the rivers and the oceans, some say. But we know that um, we know way more than what people who do not study and practice Ifa understand about Yemoja. So she's more than just the mother of the Orisha. She's more than that. Just like Yeye Oshun is more than that. Um, so let's talk about sirens versus mermaids and the mythical distinctions, because I don't there the only difference is the body. That's the thing that is really varying in this situation. So sirens in classical mythology, they were half bird and half woman creatures, and their voices lured sailors to their doom. That literally is the mythical, the classic mythology for sirens. So that's why sometimes if you ask people anything about a siren, they're going to start talking about a bird with a woman's body, because that is what a siren is known in Greek mythology, literally. But in African context, the term siren is sometimes used interchangeably with mermaids and water spirits. So for us, a siren is a water spirit. It's not a bird woman who sings and lures sailors to their death. Clear differences. Clear differences. Though they can have and retain an alluring yet dangerous reputation. It can be dangerous to be mysterious. It can be dangerous to be seductive, right? It can be dangerous to be a lot of things. So although they may not be luring people to their deaths, they do have a way about them. They can be dangerous. There was a show, actually, I seen a show, I don't, maybe it was on Netflix at one point in time, but it was called Siren. And it was about this woman who was a mermaid and was on land and was like evil. And reason why she was evil is because in this show, Sirens, when they mate with the other male mermaid and they like kill them or something. It was weird. It was so weird to me. I was just like, what is this? It was just weird. But she literally would get in seawater and she would turn into a mermaid and she would get out and she would have legs. So there goes that transformation again, right? So, okay, mermaids are depicted as half human and half fish beings, and they're linked to water spirits, period. And in African mythology, these mermaids, they wield immense power over fertility and healing and the force of nature. So, the water itself, right? Making them spiritual figures rather than folklore. So those are the differences between sirens and mermaids. It's just if you're African, you a siren, you're a mermaid, not a bird person, right? That's the distinct difference that I've seen and caught. What about y'all? What are y'all's opinions about it? Do you think it matters? I prefer siren to mermaid. I don't know why. What do you think, Ocean Tar? Because you got a lot of water energy over there.
I prefer Siren as well. I have been called a siren by others in different times and contexts. When I choose to turn on that energy, obviously it doesn't really appear in coven too much. But siren makes a little bit more sense to me. I feel like when it comes to mythology, it's just like a lot of the same differences just based on, culture and
Mhm.
traditions. So just like a lot of other things, there's no point in nitpicking. I obviously am attuned to, you know, the African tradition perspective.
Mhm.
Um and prefer siren over mermaid only because I feel like I like the word mermaid and I can relate to that word, but society it's been tainted, and turned into so many other things. So
Mhm.
just to kind of steer clear, I think if I'm referring to myself, using the word siren aligns better with my experience.
Mhm. I agree. I think, and Priestess Omoshule said in the chat that siren sounds more mysterious, and I think it does. And if you've seen me on Facebook, then you've seen me like asking different questions or asking people what a siren is for them, right? Because I consider myself to be a siren.
Mhm.
And, but I also identify as being a goddess. So different there's different levels, I would say, and reasons to it, but I prefer siren because of my experience. I prefer siren because of what I know, and I prefer siren because it's it's your special your special siren is a call to other people, right? And so I prefer siren over mermaid. To me is more kid friendly, right? That's how I think about mermaids. I think about mermaids as being the kid friendly version of the siren because the Little Mermaid's not pulling Eric to his death. She's fallen in love with him and now wants legs and all the things. So, mermaid to me is the kid-friendly version of what a siren is. And it still has a little bit of mystery, to it. But the siren is, it to me is what our personal siren is. Agiolo Shantar, go ahead, priestess.
Uh, for me, when I think of siren versus mermaid, aside from just the definitions, I feel like siren is also like a frequency. Just the transformative energy.
Mhm.
I don't know how to really put it into words, but I feel like when I think mermaid, I think more of like the tangible, like physical. And when
Mhm.
I think siren, I think so many different layers. It's just more of a frequency when I think about it, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It is. It absolutely is a frequency because it's not something that, I mean, some people can attribute it to their looks if that's what they want, because sometimes that's what a mermaid and a siren is associated with, being very beautiful, being very sexy, being very seductive, right? Like just looking at them, it's like a vampire, how a vampire can make you do the things and da, 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 da. A siren, it's like, look at the siren, she's so beautiful, goo gaga. It's like that. That's not what really makes the siren. That's only one ego ego piece to the siren. It is absolutely a frequency, it's an energy. It's not it's not something that you can hold in your hand. Because when you think about a siren whose siren is their song, it's a frequency. It's an energy. It's air. It's not something that you can't sing the song and
Yeah,
have it come out in your hand. It's not tangible. So you're absolutely right. The siren is the energy
yeah,
of the being. It's the energy that's captivating. It's not the eyes, the looks, the dimple. The dimple is only one small thing. It's just one small
yes.
thing,
It's
right? It's
definitely an
not.
energy. When I think siren or like even just like seduction in a broad sense, it's energy, it's nonverbal cues. It's,
Mhm.
it can manifest physically, through the looks and the eyes and the this and the that, but it's still like a wave of energy being transmuted. So like all of that piece is siren energy.
It is. Absolutely. Thank you for
Yeah.
that. So now there's a few variations when we're thinking about sirens in Africa, right? In West Africa, Mami Wata dominates West African traditions. Um, and is seen as the most highest respected water spirit there is. East Africa along the Swahili coast, their traditions are influenced by trade with the Indian Ocean. So the Jinni, Jinni, or the water spirits are often linked with prosperity and protection of sailors, right? So, and then in Southern Africa, the Koki the Kokihoi, and that's Khoi. And the Sand people tell tales of spirits living in lakes and rivers, similar to mermaids, but they're unpredictable, bringing blessings or harm depending on how they're treated. So depending on how you treat a siren will tell you what you're gonna get. You might get drowned. Test these waters if you want to. Okay, I'm sorry, y'all. I'm drinking this tea that Mama Shule taught. It's so good, y'all. So delicious. Okay. So let's talk a little bit about colonial influence because we know that the colonizers are always looming and lurking. And so during the colonial times, blending traditions was a thing, and that's how a lot of these other traditions and different variations started to come. So that's kind of like the blending traditional time during colonial times, during the transatlantic slave trade era, um, is when you start to see other traditions like hoodoo popping up from the blending of traditions. So during these times, European depictions of mermaids fused with African traditions, right? And so figures like Mami Wata now often have Western features of long flowing hair and light skin, and, you know, the like. Um, so blending African and African traditions with European lore. Okay. And then modern day, today, the figure of the mermaid or the siren is still an important African spiritual influence, but the rituals in the diaspora religions like voodoo, Santeria, and Candomblé, like they're still not, we still don't, know that there's a lot of that happening, but there's a lot of different varying African traditional religions across the globe in the African diaspora, and they all are, you know, appeasing water spirits. So, still very important today. Um, the power and symbolism of sirens or African water spirits are going to be the power of the water. I think most of y'all or all of y'all did the water certification. So, you know that water is so very powerful. I learned earlier in my years about water and its healing power from my indigenous native spirituality, you know, learnings and things along those things. So water is everything. And um within African culture, um water spirits symbolize life and fertility, also the unknown, because we don't truly know what's at the depths of the ocean. And so they represent the dual nature of water because it's necessary for life, but capable of destruction, right? So water destroys things. Point blank, period. Water destroys things. And when blended with other elements, is even more destructive. So, and it's reflected in different ways, you know, in different spirits, um, throughout our culture. So the power of water, that is one of the biggest symbol, spiritual significances about water spirits or sirens, is that they are within the power of the water. They live in the water. I can't live in the water. I wish I did have some gills. and I could live in the water and find Atlantis off the coast of Africa somewhere. But it's not possible, right? Also, offerings and rituals. So sometimes, when you are working with the elements and you are um honoring the spirits that walk with you or are with you, you inhabit some of those energies, you leave offerings and you do rituals, and not often on their behalf, but to like appease them and for support. you know um and so a lot of times we leave gifts, like some people will leave gifts like perfume, jewelries, mirrors. We know Shun and her mirror story. And those things can be left at the water's edge. um Jewels, pearls, crystals, even real natural beautiful items can also be left. So it doesn't have to be like jewelry that you wear, although I believe that we get jewelry from um Ajeolokun. So if you do choose to leave jewelry, you can. But that's something that is done, in Africa, in the different areas, like a common tradition, no matter where they're at. If they're dealing with the water spirit, they're probably leaving something along those lines. Um, and asking for favor, you know. Sometimes if you are, authorized to invoke certain spirits, you will have to go do certain things. So, rituals to these water deities often focus on protection, prosperity, and emotional or physical healing. So I associate Yemoja the most with a mother's comfort, and like a mother's healing touch, right? She, for me, Yemoja's energy for me is the mom energy. And I guess that's why people call her the mother of the Orisha, right? She was mother to many and only really actually birthed a few. And that's kind of part of why I initially was like, oh, this reminds me of me. I don't have children of my own, but I love everyone else's children. So years ago, when I first was learning about everything, that is what literally pulled me to Yemoja, was that aspect right there. And the fact that she didn't have children until later in life. So that was something that was like, huh, sounds a lot like me. And then as I continued into my studies, I joined Orisha Hoodoo. I joined the coven and I've learned some things along the way, but my energy has continued to evolve along the way. And I remember this one time I went with one of my little sister. She's it's like 7 years younger than me. And she was wanted to go to this college. And so she's like, "Will you take me?" So I was like, "Sure, I'll take you." So we drove to Washington, and I haven't been to a university before, like attended a university. And so I was just there peeping the scene with my little sister, brought her to college scout. And I had this student, because she's very outgoing, very like, I'm going to talk to all the Black people that I see at this school. And so she did. And the one Black person that she stopped and talked to was like with a group of people. And I was just minding my business, me. I'm chill. I was just minding my business. And they started asking me who I was. And I was like, oh, I'm just here with Malia. And they were like, oh, we thought you were her mom. And I was just like, what? Do I look like her mom? I am in my 30s. What? So I definitely can, you know, the the energy piece is there for a lot of us, I would say. But that literally, that little sidebar, sorry about that, is my, you know, my personal experience. And I don't think I look like anybody's mama yet. And it is what it is. I accept it. It's not anything bad. But I mean, I'm like 7 years older than this person. So what does that say about their vision is my thing. All right, so common themes are going to be transformation, so turning from a mermaid to a human with legs, fertility, and duality, so shape shifting. I know a couple shape shifting sirens. We have a shapeshifter in our coven. And they also hold a lot of that siren energy that we were discussing a little bit later. So shape shifting is can be attributed to the transformative piece, right? Because when you're shape shifting, you're transforming from one thing to another, or from one human to another mammal, um, be it. And so shape-shifting is big and in all areas of the siren conversation, I would say. And then fertility and healing. So water spirits are often invoked for fertility and protection and for women's health. I remember one story that I read about Yemaya and Oshun is that she's like a protector. So this is something that is known. And I guess mothers are protectors, right? Um, and so there's that bit. But more than anything, these spirits, these energies can also be viewed as guardians of life and death, symbolizing transformation and renewal through their control of the water and its mysteries. Okay. I recently watched the newest Bad Boys movie, and I love that. That's probably my favorite movie at this point, and my favorite version of the Bad Boys. In the movie, he Martin Lawrence experiences a near-death experience. And he comes back and he's just this whole different person. And he's telling everybody, I died and was at the bottom of the ocean, yo. Which supports the belief that I have as well, where the ancestors reside in the depths of the ocean with Olokun. And so I just love that it's coming to fruition, but I'm sure that people really don't understand what the hell he's talking about. He died, he was in the bottom of the ocean. Yeah, okay. You was in a coma, you didn't die. It's probably what a lot of people are thinking. I know Priestess Omoshula and I spoke about it a couple weeks ago, but that really was, I love that. I love it. I love that the spiritual aspects are not being left out, because I have a whole list of celebrities who carry a siren-like energy, right? And we know number one, Beyonce right now, she's the only person really openly, outwardly talking about her ocean energy. So we know that. But the spiritual aspects of these energies that people want to try to interact with and learn more about, especially this water energy, is so important. So the reason I'm bringing up that movie is just that there are deeper meanings that are not being left behind, and I love that. I love that. Okay. So, any questions about water sirens? We're an hour in. We're going to talk about land sirens. And I really, in my research, I found some African land spirits and things, some information about them. So is there any, and we all know about water spirits who are on this call right now. So, but is there anything, did I need to touch on anything? Do you have any comments? No? Okay, cool. All right, so land spirits, land sirens, let's get into it. Their definition and characteristics. Okay, so land sirens are mythical beings tied to specific landscapes, often forests, caves, or mountains. And I would even associate fairies with like land sirens as well, right? They live in the forest. Similar to water signs, they possess the ability to mesmerize or lure humans, frequently through song, beauty, and magical influence. In many tales, they act as guardians of nature. Sorry, y'all, my puppy is, she just came over. I think she needs to go out. So I'm trying to, okay, so in many tales, they act as guardians of the natural world, protecting specific regions or serving as intermediaries between the human world and the spirit realm. Okay, so that's just basic information, land sirens, right? And that's not my, this is the information that I found on land sirens. African land spirits, then Aziza, Aziza, in West African folklore. They are ferret spirits who provide wisdom and magical knowledge to humans. And though not seductress, in the typical siren sense, they are elusive and powerful, only appearing to those deemed worthy. So they protect the forest and their secrets, much like how humans or how mermaids guard their aquatic domains. And then next, the Bantu, Bantu, Bantu spirit beings. Among the Bantu speaking communities in Central and Southern Africa, spirits associated with mountains and sacred lands exist as guardians. These beings are often unpredictable. Approaching them without proper ritual and respect can bring misfortune. They may guide those who show respect to the land, but are known to retaliate against trespassers or those who harm the environment. So keepers of the land, I would associate them with.
How do you spell the first African tribe? As you said, Azizas?
Aziza, Aziza. Hold on, y'all. Okay. Did you get that, Aziza? Okay. So those are two examples that I found I felt like were reputable and relevant to our study. Seductive land spirits in other cultures. So the Alexis or Aluxis, I don't know if that's really how it's pronounced, but it's Aluxes. It is from the Mayan culture. But they are small, mischievous spirits found in the Yucatan Peninsula, and they guard the land and often lead people astray if they disrespect natural spaces. They're not physically alluring, but they're tricky and elusive. Nature reflect a siren-like quality that they can cause travelers to lose their way. So be careful if you ever go to the Yucatan Peninsula. And then Greek sirens. Originally, Greek sirens were actually land creatures depicted as bird women who lived on rocky islands and cliffs and lured sailors from afar to their um, haunting songs and deaths. And that's, you know, just some basic land spirits in other cultures. So like I said earlier, in the Greek mythology, the siren is also considered an air siren. So, all right. So let's talk a little bit about the symbolism of the land sirens. So they are just, for me, in my research, what I found is they're known as like the guardians of nature. So like oftentimes, if you're talking about a land siren, um, they're in a forest or like a mountainous area or a cave, which a cave is not easy to find and mostly associated with the forest. And you have to come with respect is something that I found. So like guardians of nature um is the one of the like main things that I found, and they symbolize like the untamed and unpredictable nature of the wilderness. So not always so beautiful as like a water siren, but alluring and mischievous, right? And unpredictable, essentially. And they embody the spirit of the land. So emphasizing the importance of respecting natural landscapes. So that's why I'm like, they are the guardians of nature. That's what land sirens are. And they also are mystical. They have like a mystical allure of the land, right? So land sirens will represent the allure of the unknown in earthly environments. So drawing people into enchanted forests, hidden caves, or sacred mountains, you know. These places are often imbued with an energy that can either bless or curse its visitors. So the land sirens, I would say, are the ones who are writing the hieroglyphs, drawing the pictures in caves and things like that. And depending on what divination has told them, will depend on if it's going to be a blessing or not. So let's move forward. So, folklore and modern interpretations for land sirens. So, the myths of seduction and danger. So, land sirens use charm and enchantment to lead humans to dangerous areas, testing their intentions and morality. And so when I was doing my research, I was just like, I don't know. I vision a land siren doing something more like having traps set up in the forest and catching people like that, and like doing stuff like that, but not like necessarily luring them away. But as some of these other traditions, and other cultures have said, they are mischievous, they will take you and lead you astray. So I don't know. The mystical allure of the land is something, but then the danger piece, I don't know. I'm trying to put them together, and I guess they don't really need to be put together because we can be all of it, right? So um the seduction and danger of the land sirens, the other aspect of that is the folks who are respectful are rewarded in ways. So, and I would look at that as rewarded in ways of being able to go to the forest and do things, like when they build relationships with the people who are natural foragers and things like that. Foragers who can go to the forest and forage without getting hurt, without falling off cliffs or getting caught in traps or stray bullets, things like that. Like, that's their blessing. They're able to go out and forage. I know a lady, she calls herself the Green Witch here. She goes into the forest and forages. But she like leaves offerings and like does all these different things to be able to do that because her products in her business are made from forged items. So I can see that with the land sirens, being rewarded in different ways, not with riches and gold. Like maybe you might find a really pretty rock, or you might find like a natural gemstone or something, but the reward is going to be something more along the lines of allowance to continue doing what you're doing. And then the environmental symbolism, for land sirens. And modern introspectations of land sirens highlight the importance of environmental stewardship. So, as they serve as the protectors against those who harm nature, um, in some like neo-pagan and new age traditions, they're invoked in rituals for land protection. And it's not something that I'm accustomed to or something that I really know about. I know about water ceremonies, water blessing ceremonies. Like the tribe does one every year. Local tribes, they get together and they'll get together and do like a 3 or 4 day water ceremony, and they'll bless the local waters. And this kind of sounds like something like that, maybe. Trying to bless the earth. So, are there any questions about land sirens? I'm going to touch back on my definition of land sirens in just a second, but are there any questions about any of the information that was shared? Comments? No. Okay, so lastly, air sirens. Let's talk quickly about the definition, characteristics of air sirens. Elemental association. Air sirens are associated with wind, sky, and often mountaintops. They may appear in bird-like forms, as spirits in the wind, or as semi-human figures that seem to float or fly. Um, Enchanting voices and songs. So, air sirens are known for their beautiful, haunting voices, and they lure and mesmerize listeners. So their song is going to be a voice that is captivating and alluring and going to draw you in completely. Um, but like we discussed earlier, I would say their voice, their song is more of a frequency, and an energy, not so much a sound, if that makes sense. And their voices are said to ride the wind, carrying their songs over long distances. Okay. And then elusiveness and mystery. Air sirens are often portrayed as elusive, difficult to capture or approach, and they may vanish into thin air or transform into the mist or birds, further emphasizing their connection to the skies. This puppy. All right. So let's talk about some cultural variations of air sirens. Greek sirens. We've talked about them already. Bird women lived in rocky, mountainous areas and also sometimes islands. And they use their voices to lure sailors to their deaths. That was the Greek mythology of a siren. European lore. In European folklore, air spirits like the Slavic Rusalka, Rusalka, can sometimes act as air sirens, appearing in trees and trees or mist to seduce passerbys with a whisper song. So while these beings are sometimes tied to water, they are also thought to reside in forest, treetops, air, or mountain areas. And that is the Slavic Rusalka, European lore. Air siren. Middle Eastern and North African, the jinn. Djinn. In Middle Eastern and North African traditions, the jinn are known as beings of smokeless fire that can inhibit the air and wind. And some types of jinn, like the ifrit, it's Ifrit, and the marid, marid, are associated with influencing human thoughts and emotions through whispers carried on the breeze. And though not sirens, as in the traditional sense, they possess similar abilities to charm and confuse travelers through the air. So, like smoke. All right, powers and symbolism of air sirens, wind, and freedom. So they often symbolize freedom and wisdom and the boundless nature of the sky. And they are seen as embodying the power of flight, transformation, and um, um, lifelong qualities of the wind, like everlasting. I just had a dyslexic moment. I'm sorry. Okay, and then the voice of the power, their enchanting songs reflect the influence of voice and sound. So, symbolizing the ability to communicate and influence and even control the minds and emotions of others. And their voices carry not only a beauty, but also a danger. And then guardians of the high places, mountains, treetops, things like that. They're thought to be the guardians of the high places, and their connection to these sacred locations make them symbols of protection. And then I mentioned earlier the modern interpretations or depictions, the angelic comparisons. So air sirens are compared to angels due to their association with the sky, um, and often protective nature. But I don't know about that so much. I don't know. What do y'all think about that? I'm curious. Do you guys think that air sirens can be depicted as angels?
I think it can go in that category depending on your spiritual beliefs and what you consider an angel to be. You know, people associate, I mean, it just really comes down to your spiritual beliefs. Um,
Mhm.
I I wouldn't put that limitation. I think that would be very limiting to feel as though angels, air sirens, you know, aren't a thing. I think that would be very limiting. I think I personally believe that there are angels of every element, so to speak.
Mhm.
Um, is how I feel.
Nice. Thank you for that. Okay. And then the other one is goddesses and spirits in new age practices. So I would say in some pagan practices, air sirens are invoked and beings um, representing the east direction, often associated with like clarity, knowledge, and fresh starts. I don't I'm not pagan, so I don't know. But they are sometimes called upon to clear negative energy or bring inspiration and insight. So there is that. Um, the um only thing that I really found as far as like themes is like luring and bewitching to travelers. And then their dual nature of the voice. So really beautiful songs, enchanting, but also very destructive. Um, and surprisingly enough, one 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 site that I read was talking about protections and warnings, and that in some cultures, charms, prayers, and specific rituals are performed to prevent air sirens from enchanting travelers. So, like, some people will do something to prevent the air sirens from messing with their travel. I don't know because that hasn't ever been a real thing for me. Um, I'm just learning about air sirens realistically, the Greek mythology. That is something that we learn like in school, but not in depth. So maybe more research. I'll do more research on these different types of sirens just to kind of get a little bit more understanding. But for now, we know that water sirens are half human and half fish, and we know that they have transformative powers associated with healing and fertility and just so many things. We've talked about all the different types of sirens. Are there any questions about what we've discussed so far? Because now we're going to talk about us as sirens. So, are there any questions about like land, air, water sirens? Okay. All right. So, when you think of yourself, I want y'all to just think about yourself. Do you, and you can just raise your hand, come off mute, do a reaction or something. But do you identify as a goddess? Like, is that how you identify? It's important for me to understand. Do you identify as a goddess? Let me know. If you identify with the goddess, like if you identify as a goddess, you don't, why not Pitu?
Sorry, I'm in a car right now. I don't know. It never sounded like something that just resonated with me. I don't know if it's just the terminology. Because I feel like if you're a goddess, like that is like a frequency, just like siren and these other things. Like either you're on the frequency or you're not, kind of thing. So I personally don't feel like I have that. I I feel like it's probably more maybe like siren-esque kind of energy over goddess energy for me.
Okay, I feel that. Siren being the Leo, very fiery, very matter of fact, but very fun. So definitely dangerous.
You know, we're spicy.
Anyone else? Do you identify as a goddess?
My answer is kind of similar to Priestess Oya Patu's. So like no, but I think that's because it's just never been one of those terms or those labels or those things that I've found myself drawn to like tap more into or to learn more into. You know what I mean? So that's with lack of practical definition, maybe because it just hasn't been one of the things that like come up.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you for that.
For me, I feel when I think of me identifying as a goddess, I um I do, but I do in like a future sense. Like I feel like I am becoming goddess. Like I feel like, I embody a lot of, siren energy, and but when I think of goddess energy, I think of a higher frequency than what I'm on now. And so
Mhm.
I feel like the future me is goddess.
Mhm. Okay. What
Yeah.
about
And
you,
I get
Princess
to,
Omoshule? Oh, sorry.
So, so
just the future, more mature priestess version of me, and I get to Ia status. I'll be calling myself goddess.
Okay,
for
Priestess
me,
Omoshule.
I think it depends on the environment. Honestly, I think that I am more in a goddess energy when I'm more near like water and more in a calm and serene like nature environment. I feel like my goddess energy has naturally turned up. Now, when I'm in here, motherfucking DC or New York, it's like surrounded by bricks and stuff. I'm more into like a warrior energy. So I think it depends. I feel it has been very hard for me to um be in my goddess energy around a lot of chaos and stuff, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So, but then when I'm like near water and more in nature, um, more just in a natural element, I am more relaxed and that goddess energy is like peaked.
I'm sorry. This puppy just got to my office. We had to grab him. Okay. So yes, definitely when you're in, thank you for that. I I feel like I identify as a goddess. You'll see on my name it says Priestess Olaye Fashebi, goddess. I use goddess as one of my pronouns because a goddess is so many things, right? Like, and not just in the flesh, a person who does magic or has powers. Like, it's like your energy. And so, like, as Agiola has said, she's becoming goddess. And I think that it's levels, obviously. It's not something that we're just like on goddess level from day one. It took a really long time for me to even feel like I could call myself a goddess or identify as holding goddess energy or, you know, being a being with a higher plane of energy surrounding me and all that I do. And so when I think about being a siren and being a goddess, the two line up for me. Um, the siren is the frequency that I, as a goddess, am on, right? Some of you have heard me talk about I'm in my mystical era or my majestic era. Because it's not a soft girl era for me. I'm not gonna have a soft girl era. I'm sorry. That's just not something that I feel like is appropriate for me, my lifestyle, or the things that I associate myself with. And so when I'm referring to myself as a goddess, I'm referring to myself as God body, right? Like the female version. As Ajay Aigbe said, goddess as a small piece of God resonates. And that's what it is. You can't have goddess without God, right? And a lot of the conversations that we have around being a siren, being a goddess, being a queen, it's been materialistic. it's been egotistical, and it hasn't always been on a spiritual level. So you won't ever hear me call another woman a queen like that unless that's what she prefers. I prefer to I prefer to associate all of my sisters, like my coven sisters and any spiritual sister that I meet, as a goddess, right? Not just the beautiful, fun-loving, attractive, alluring woman or femme. No, not just that. Like your personal embodiment of God and what that is. And that relationship is always personal. It's not something that can ever be duplicated. So when I identify as a goddess, I'm identifying my personal relationship as it relates to my relationship with God and how I carry myself and walk through life and how I associate things for me. And this is just something that it's been on my heart for a long time because, you know, we go through changes on our spiritual journey while we're soul searching, while we're doing all the things. And so, as a woman who considers herself a siren, meaning my siren is a frequency that for a while I could not figure out how to control it. Literally. I've stories, I've probably told a few people stories about like when I was 21, 22, 23, you know, and just out here racking out every day, doing the things. But really, it was my energy that was attracting this, right? And I had no idea. Someone actually told me this about myself at 22. And so but still didn't understand what the hell they were talking about. Like, what do you mean? Like, I don't get it. I didn't understand. I was drinking daily and not clear-headed or clear-minded or tapped in. And so now in my later years, being tapped in and coming into the woman that I am today, being a siren is several things. Okay. So how do you describe or characterize your siren, Oya Petu?
Honestly, it's more of, I think it just falls under the Leo fiery energy. There's really no other way to describe it, I guess. I'm a Leo and we just naturally sexy bitches, and I was raised by two Scorpios, so I got mad siren energy from both sides of my family. So I say fiery.
Got it. Fiery.
Yes,
Fiery
that confidence
siren.
egg bay, definitely sexy.
Ajay Aigbe.
This has been good. So I think it may evolve and change as I think about it. But right now, just kind of, I think you guys will get what I mean when I say bossy. Like, I don't know, persuasive. Like, my siren can just make you do what you need to do. I don't really have to work too hard to convince you. You're just gonna do it,
Right. Agiola, Ocean Tara, Priestess.
This is tickling me. This is tickling me. My siren energy is more like of a charmer. Just having that ability to make somebody, I don't know how to put it without saying too much, but being having the ability to connect with somebody and to let them know that, you know, I see them, and to make them feel special, and to be able to have like you know, energetic connection that draws them in, you know, while I usually have like some type of, you know, boundary in place for myself. But usually, you know, I have a way with words, and not more like that attract with honey, like not more like that boss energy, but just more of that like sweet come to me energy. Do what I tell you to do, because I look you in your eyes and ask you oh so nicely.
Almost Shule, Priestess Almost Shule.
I'm sorry. That tickled me.
I
Uh,
am like cracking up on the inside.
um, no, that was nicely put. I think mine would be realness, because I don't know how to like sweeten my words. It is what it
Mm.
is. And so I think that realness is like transparency. So I guess
Mhm.
that would be yeah.
Okay. Transparency is good. And being a straight shooter is always wise, right? I would say, Omoshule, you are wise and you are kind. And I would say that you're inviting, right? I would say that your siren is can be attributed to the space that you keep and the energy that is put into it, right? I've been in that. I've been in the midst of it. Like, oh, this is home. I'm not leaving. This is where I live.
I do
Same.
like that.
This is
That is
my
Same.
why my name is
home.
Almost Shule. That's why it's Almost Shule.
Right.
Okay. No,
So,
that's good. But yeah, so
yeah.
I like that. I like that.
Yeah. So my siren is soft and sweet and enticing. And I would describe my siren as I would describe my siren as breakfast in bed, like the energy of romance is a part of my siren. And um I would also say that I characterize my siren as a healing siren, right? Like I am a healer. And in my journey to learning how to heal others and the different aspects of healing, my energy is healing. So my siren is a healing siren. And so oftentimes when we think about being a siren, we think about what I don't, but what society has put in our heads to think about is like dangerous, sexy, alluring, flowy hair. Like that's not the thing. So setting yourself apart from the status quo of what a siren is, right? Your These next things are going to contribute to your siren. And it's going to vary for everyone. It's not all going to be exactly the same, right? Because we're all individually having a separate experience on this earth. None of our spirits are the same, and none of us experience spirit the same. So all of our sirens are going to have different characteristics and different attributes that others will not have. Omoshule is a straight shooter. I can be a straight shooter, but I care too much about people's feelings. So I'd be like, oh, I don't want to hurt their feelings. Right? I can be, but I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. So our differences is what makes us who we are. And that will contribute to your personal siren. And as I've said before, your siren is a frequency. It is a energy. Your siren is not the physical attributes of your face, your body, or anything like that. Your siren is the frequency that you're on and the frequency that you emit to others. That's really what makes us sirens. What we bring to others, right? As a goddess, as a priestess in training, or as a healer, whoever you are, however you identify, your personal attributes are accounted for based on how people view you, see you, and receive what you have to offer. So being a siren, it has nothing to do with all of this. It has everything to do with the frequency that you emit. Are you open? Are you welcoming? Are you not? So that's, that's what it is. Your siren is your frequency and the level at which you emit it for people to experience you or not experience you. So, magnetic confidence. So I'm very shy person. I'm naturally just, I don't want to do it. I don't want to be the center of attention. I don't want to do it. Don't look at me. Don't talk about it. I don't want to. Right? But in certain instances or in certain energetic fields that I happen to find myself in, I will have that magnetic confidence that I need. Having to be in community and be a leader, balance is very key for me. So this being able to tap into the magnetic confidence that I could have in the situation that I actually need is what contributes to my siren. Your siren energy exudes a natural, grounded confidence that draws people in. And then feminine sirens embody self-assurance in their movements, their voice and presence, creating an aura that feels both powerful and inviting. So if you are in a space where Ocean Tara describes her siren as quiet and sweet and enticing, but kind of, I get the prowess energy from Ocean Tara. And that's not no shade or nothing. It's like she has this energy about her. If you've ever been in the presence of Agiola Oshantara, you know what I'm talking about. You know she has this energy about herself that just makes you be like, "Ugh." And it's like, okay. We went to Chicago for Working While Black conference in August, and we went out to a local nightclub, and we were listening to some house music and we were dancing. And at one point, we all got up on the stage and we were dancing. And I have this video of Oshun Tara doing this like this thing, but she was in her element and in her her siren. s- our sirens sometimes can be reflected through body movements, right? Your magnetic confidence. So we're just in a circle dancing, these Black folks, because we're in a mixed crowd, and we're like dancing in a circle, and then we dance our way onto the stage. And then all of a sudden, we're just like, ooh, let's do the stage dance.
The energy definitely changed.
It changed. So that magnetic confidence can be a switch that you switch on and switch off, but it is something that it draws people in, right?
Can you go back? I think it might be in your definitions because what you said actually is really making a connection for me right now. It was something about how, I don't know, something just like naturally happens. I don't know, you might have to say the whole thing of the last definition of self-assurance in their movements, and then there was something after that.
Okay, let me see. Feminine sirens embody self-assurance in their movements, their voice and presence, creating an aura that feels both powerful and inviting.
Okay.
So,
About magnetic confidence.
mhm. Yep, there it exudes natural, grounded confidence that draws people in.
Okay.
And I just started talking about our experience, like with that magnetic confidence. Cause I won't always be like I said, I'm a very shy person. But in the times when I need to be out front and center, that magnetic confidence can be switched on and off for
Yes,
me.
and that's the connection I'm making because when I get into a certain element, it does not feel like my natural day-to-day self.
Mhm.
And then when it's all said and done, I'll be like, oh damn, what was
Mhm.
what was that?
Mhm.
And it's just like a switch that just like happens and you just become this amazing ethereal being for a little while.
Yep. Your presence is the next thing. So, a sensual presence isn't always required, but your presence, the presence that you bring will contribute to your siren. So, in my years of learning how to turn on and off the siren, I have learned to either make eye contact or not make eye contact. And there's this combination that I found really kind of just as like an instant reeling them in. And it's not, I was working in a dispensary and the customers would come in and I'd be working with the customer, minding my business. There's another person work with the customer. But for some reason, I would have like 3 or 4 people lined up at my register when there's a whole other person right over here. And it's because I am really chill. When I worked in the dispensary, I was really, really chill, like just super cool, laid back. But I know a lot about weed. And as soon as the customers would come inside, I would greet them. I would make eye contact with them and smile, and then go back to doing what I was doing and be like, "I'll be with you in a moment," or "How you doing today?" And that combination of catching their eye and smiling at them turned out to be a whole switch because one time I was there just minding my business, doing my thing, working, and a customer came in, and Jared, the owner, was there, and he was completely open and available to help this customer. It's probably like putting some jars up on the shelf or something. And like I said, as soon as I was the manager, so as soon as anybody walked through the door, I would acknowledge their presence, catch their eye, smile at them, and greet them. Like that was just my thing. It wasn't like I wasn't trying to make everybody like me. That wasn't my intention. My intention was to let them know that I see them and to acknowledge them. And this customer comes in and I'm doing what I'm doing, and I do my natural thing, catch their eye, greet them, acknowledge them, go back to doing my thing. And he said, Jared said, I can help you right over here. He said, no, I'm gonna wait for Yemi to be done doing what she's doing. And Jared said, well, all right then. And he went and he sat down at the computer, and I finished putting the jars up, and the customer was just waiting, patiently waiting. And so when I helped the customer, they got whatever and they left. Jared was like, what the hell did you do to the customer? He wouldn't let me help him. I was like, I didn't do anything. I promise. I just greet the customer when they come in. That's it. So in retrospect, when I've been doing my own little research and study on myself and my own personal energy and monitoring how my energy changes, that turned into a switch. That wasn't necessarily a sensual presence, but it was my presence. It was, I know as soon as I come in the store, even if she's busy, she's going to greet me, she's going to smile at me, and she's going to say something. And it turned into a switch. Now I'd be like this. I don't even do the, if I do look at people, I will do half smile or something. I won't do the full, I won't do it because it does something. And I've had to learn that. So I've had to control that presence with people, catching their eye, smiling at them, greeting them, doing the thing. It does something to people. So I can't do it. The energy. So your presence, connecting deeply to your senses, engaging fully in your environment, and moving with a slow, deliberate engagement, I feel like is the precise thing to do when it comes to your energy. So moving with a slow, deliberate engagement tactic can be one way for you to identify what that presence is that you have, and if it's a part of your siren, if it's something that you need to monitor or not. And the sensual awareness, like the central awareness of this energy will enhance your presence, helping you to have intentional interactions with people, whether they be like intimate, meaningful, or friendly. Are there any questions about that? Your energy. Okay. The next thing, your your mystery. Your mystery is also, it contributes to the characteristics of your siren. So, do you selectively reveal your thoughts or feelings to create intrigue? I do. the sense of the mystique is part of the siren. So you could be a siren that doesn't have very much mystery to you. Some people are just very open naturally. But I maybe wouldn't call them a siren. A siren is something that it takes a little bit to really grasp, to learn, and to be able to harness like your personal siren. And then the mystery of who you are, what you're about, I changed my name on Facebook because I want to not be found by people who are no longer, I no longer want to associate with people. That's a part of my mystery. My name changed. Part of my mystery is I now use the term in another life. That's part of what I'm doing for myself as a siren to continue on the mystery. A lot of people don't know jack squat about who I am as a person, as a goddess, as a priestess. They probably couldn't even tell you my birth name. Period. And that's just, a protective shield, the mystery. Mystery adds a layer of protection, right? So without just saying, I was born on this day, this is my mama's name, my daddy's name, this is my social security number, and here's all the identifying information you need to know about me. Don't do that. Like, have a layer of protection that adds a little bit of mystery to your siren. So figuring out what that can be for you, you don't have to be secretive. You could be private, you could be selective. You could be secretive if you want to be. I'm very selective in what I share with who. Everyone don't need to know everything. And so the mystery also contributes to the characteristics of your siren. What is that mystery for you? How do you carry forth that mystery, right? If we're talking sensually, what is it? Another characteristic that you should consider when you're identifying what your siren is what is your emotional depth? Like, are you emotional? Are you not emotional? Because you don't have to be either. You can for sure be a siren and not be a crybaby. I'm a siren and I'm a crybaby. I'm very emotional. Some movies will make me cry. I don't know about commercials, but some movies will make me cry. I'm very in tune with my emotions. And at this point in my, era, I am working to identify the different emotions more clearly. So the emotional depth doesn't exactly mean that you're an emotional person. It just means what's your emotional understanding? How does your emotional understanding contribute to your siren? Can you read the room? I've had some moments where I'm not reading the room. I've had some of those moments, but I have these other very profound moments that are just inexplainable, where I'm just like, I know exactly what to do here. And it happens and it can shift the energy, right? Those are the moments and the times that we don't really talk about because, for our culture in our country, it's kind of taboo. Who knows what's about to happen? They might, I don't know. I don't know. But that emotional depth, your level to be able to identify what the emotional frequency is and how can your siren contribute to that or take away from it if it's something that's bad, negative, not good? What is that? Your depth is rooted in an ability to connect deeply and revealing the emotional insight or empathy that is needed in the moment. I'm a feminine siren, and I'm attuned to my emotions and the emotions of others sometimes, too much sometimes. And when I'm in tuned to other people's emotions, that frequency allows me to communicate with them in a way that is helpful. And the best example I can give is I have a friend, my friend, she came over one time and we were just sitting here chatting, and I'm very connected to her. We do events together and things, like we host events and all kinds of stuff together. And when she came over and we were just sitting here chatting a little bit, and she just leaned in and was like, "Are you reading me right now?" Because I know and felt what she was going through. Our conversation turned into a channeling session where I was channeling information and insight to help her. So sometimes your ability to be connected to others is something your emotional depth helps you to communicate with other people, is essentially what I'm trying to say. Your ability to read, pick up on energies, emotions, and things like that is something that will contribute to the characteristics of your siren, because you're able to read the room. You're able to pick up on the energies. In some cases, though, I will say, some people are blocked off energetically, and either they do it on purpose or it's just a protective mechanism, and you might not be able to read them. If this is a situation that happens where you're just like, how come I can't read their energy, or how come I can't figure out what's going on, one thing that you can do is just kind of take the reins on the communication piece and kind of start pulling it out slowly but surely, right? With your presence in combination with your emotional depth, your presence can knock that blockade down, right? Like being confident in the moment, and then your presence plus the emotional depth can knock the blockade down if the person is like got you blocked and you can't read their energy. Does that make sense? We're almost done, y'all. And then the last characteristic that I wanted to share today is intuitive wisdom is an important characteristic of your siren. Having the ability to display strong intuition and connection based on your inner wisdom helps you to guide the conversation and interactions that you may be having with other people. And so your different connections will attribute this or contribute to this. So whether it be a connection in nature, spiritual connection, or personal connections, these connections will help you. They will assist you when you're displaying this strong, intuitive knowledge, this inner wisdom. Your intuitive strength gives you a calm and composed presence. So if you basically essentially taking all of these different characteristics and identifying what your characteristic is, what your confidence level is, or how to turn on that magnetic confidence, what your presence is, what's the frequency of your presence, what is your mystery, your emotional depth, and your intuitive wisdom, combining all of these things together is what makes up your siren. So your intuitiveness is the first real initial thing that you start with. Intuitively, you know you are different. Intuitively, you know you have this allure about yourself. Intuitively, you know this is the energy for you. So all of these different characteristics combined to one can help you to categorize and characterize your own personal siren so that you understand how your energy fluctuates through life when you're interacting with other people. Does that make sense to y'all?
Yes.
It does? Okay. Because I'm like, okay, these are the, and there's probably more characteristics, but these are like the top 5 things that I really think about the most when I'm thinking about my siren, how I go through the world, how I communicate with people, how what my interactions are like, both
Can you
on
list them
the
again?
receiving and giving. Mm-hmm. What you say?
I'm sorry. Can you list them again just to make sure I have them all?
Mm-hmm. Yep, magnetic confidence, sensual presence or your personal presence, your mystery, emotional depth, and your intuitive wisdom. All of those combined, those are the top 5 for me. All of those combined make up your siren and the frequency that you ride and how you are able to release that energy to others and disperse it or not disperse it. In another class later, we'll talk about how do we turn it on and off. it's it's not easy, but it's all about knowing yourself and learning who you are and identifying these different pieces. And even on a spiritual level, I would say identifying who you are spiritually, what connects and resonates with you spiritually, and how that also like resonates and contributes to your siren is key. I'm a spiritual being. That is who I am. I am a spiritual being. That is, it's a big part of my siren. My calm, cool, collected energy. But I also have some very big energy. Some very big energy that is not comfortable for some people when it's big energy against them. Yes, I'm sweet, kind, loving, generous. But test these waters if you want to. Fuck around and get drowned. So, if there's no questions or comments, tell me how you feel about your siren now and how you characterize yourself as a siren now versus before. there's any insight to that. Please share.
Well, two things come
Okay,
up.
so go ahead.
Okay. Thank you for class. It was super insightful because it put together a few dots, like connected some dots that really hadn't really clicked before. So, just so my notes for me is the all is one aspect. I always thought of sirens as, again, just sirens and mermaids. I always thought mermaids were just the fish people, and that was just, just that. And then sirens, were these alluring seductresses, and I really didn't think too much of it past then. But two things have been coming up for me recently, like not strangely, because no things are strange, but fairies have keep popping up. The ideas of fairy magic, and then the idea of just our own energetic signature. And I feel like both of those things kind of came full circle almost in this discussion, because you mentioned how sirens are not only of the water. We have air sirens, we have land sirens. We talk about how they are the keepers of nature. And then when you mentioned the Aziza, that like reminded me of something. And it's like, yeah, they're like the African version of the fairies almost. So just seeing that sirens have different dominions and it's not only water. So I'm able to see myself more in that way. And then the energetic signature piece, because like you keep stressing, it's not just the fish people. It's beyond that. It's your energy, your frequency. So it's energetic frequency. It's your energetic signature, like how you come out, like what is your energy saying about you? Like what is your energetic stamp? And that right now for me is being kind of synonymous with siren. And I never thought about it before. The things never, clicked before. So I think I'm still defining my siren. But I do love just the transformative piece. The one thing that connected all the different versions, the different mythologies, was the power to transform. And I see that within my siren.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. We are people who transform. Our energy transforms. So I really appreciate that. Priestess Omoshule, were you gonna say something? Priestess Agiolo Shuntara. Okay. You have anything to share?
Yes, I love this class. I love the way that you connected the dots and provided a framework for how to define, siren energy. I feel like being intentional about embodying, um, and recognizing these five elements also just will support me in just even just being in my priestess energy as well. It's all correlated. So I'm very excited to delve into these aspects more and sit with them and meditate them and figure out how I can, really mature and get like the most out of, these different levels of and these different frequencies. Um I'm a fire sign, Sag in the house all day. And my moon is in Aries and I'm a Gemini rising, so fire, fire, air. So I feel like I would love to like have a class. I would love to know like what people would say in regards to my energetic signature stamp, but in describing myself, I definitely give like that fire flame energy. Sometimes it's a nice, pretty seductive ember, a nice, sexy flame. And sometimes I'm ready to burn the whole shit down. Like it's all going, it's all up in flames. Like fuck around and get burnt. Like, so there's a spectrum, uh, but it also, the Orisha, bringing in the water deities and or the water sirens. um that's why I realize in many ways I have Yemaya and Oshun in my court, because sometimes I'm just all fire, fire, and then the Gemini air is just like fan the flames, fan the flames. And so I need, that calming, water energy to reel me in and to soothe things out and to cool things down and to allow things to flow. And yeah, it just so that all is one aspect that Ajay Ayigbe had mentioned, and resonates with me in that regard to who I am and what I have going on by myself, and then the spiritual, uh my spiritual court that gives me what I need to balance that out, to really be that siren, true siren goddess energy as a whole.
Thank you so much for sharing. I appreciate that. I think that one of the things that I have loved the most about just learning more about my siren over the years is just it changes and it evolves. I've evolved as from an Alwo student to a priestess. And in that transition, like I could tell the various changes that were happening and occurring for me. My younger years of being a siren, like I'm talking like 21, 22. It was it was a hot mess. It was such a hot mess to me when I look back, like, oh my God, girl, what was you doing? He was just doing the most.
Well, I can relate, because being a siren and not really knowing what you're capable of, like me as a teenager in my 20s, emitting my siren energy ended up in a dumpster fire because I didn't know how to handle it. And it just,
Listen,
yeah.
it can be a lot. So I encourage everyone to really, even if you don't identify as a siren and you don't identify as a goddess, still take these characteristics and find out how they are embedded in your life and where, and what ways can they contribute to the work that you're doing, the healing that you're doing, or the energy that you're emitting to other people. Like, how can these different characteristics contribute to your intentions, contribute to your path, right? And everyone has their own path and destiny, but the straight and narrow is the way to get there, even though the path is different. So there is a correct way to go about certain things, even though it's different. Does that mean the path to enlightenment is straight and narrow? But how everyone takes that path is going to be different. So, how you take these characteristics and embed them in your life or find them throughout your different aspects and personalities of the priestess or the queen that you are, right? Will contribute. It will add another layer. Think about it on a deeper level. Think about it outside yourself. That's one big thing about being a goddess to me, for me. Being able to look outside myself has been granted to me. So that's one big thing for me. So I don't just look at me, I look at those around me, right? So thank you all for joining me. Priestess Omoshula, I'm not sure if you wanted to say anything or not, but I know you were dealing with something really quick. Um, I have loved our conversation and talking today about sirens. I love sirens. I adore mermaids. But I adore us sirens that are contributing to the welfare of our world in varying different ways by healing and helping. So, this has been Seductive Sirens. We've gone over water sirens, air sirens, and land sirens. We've talked about African water spirits, and we've discussed how we characterize ourselves as sirens and what are those different characteristics. What are some of those characteristics that attribute to our siren as individuals? And I really just want to say, I hope you take these characteristics, and whether you're a siren or not, you are able to utilize them in your life and help you to deepen the relationship you have within yourself with the divine, deepen the relationship you have with the divine being within. So, I am Priestess Olaiya Ifa Shabi. And as I always say, test these waters if you want to. Peace.